Welcome to Know This Live. I'm Zinhle Essamuah. This week, the Justice Department announced that they were able to recover a majority of a ransom payment given to online hackers after Colonial Pipeline systems were compromised, resulting in a fuel shortage. The department also warned that these digital threats are growing and industries need to be increasingly aware of it. Joining me today is Vikas Bhatia, a cybersecurity expert and CEO of risk assessment software JustProtect. Thank you for being here with us.
Zinhle, very nice to speak to you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I want to start with the basics. Can you just break down for us what ransomware attacks are and explain how this was able to happen to a company as large as Colonial Pipeline?
Absolutely. So ransomware, if anyone's familiar with the internet, ransomware is really just a modern day version of those really annoying browser pop-ups that used to appear on various websites that you went to, and you'd sit there and you'd click all of them to get rid of them. Really, ransomware is a modern day version of that, where the hackers or the bad guys have worked out that by exploiting certain gaps that exist in people's technology and their computers and their browsers, they're able to not only present those pop-ups, but they're actually able to get access to the very underlying system that controls that computer. What they do is they lock up that computer. So similar to the pop-ups, it would lock up your experience. It's the same experience. They're just locking up your machine and then saying, well, if you want that data back, if you want to have control of your machine again, then give us some money. Kind of like the school bully tactics, right? We've got your lunch. If you want your lunch back, you got to give us some money. It's really just the same phenomena.
And obviously, this was a big deal, right? We know it impacted all of the East Coast at the minimum. And I know that the Colonial Pipeline CEO said they're committed to helping other companies make sure that this doesn't happen again and learn from their experiences. Could they have done things differently?
Absolutely. I've been in the industry for over 20 years. And the one thing that hasn't changed is that every organization must do a risk assessment and they must present the findings of that risk assessment to the board or to the appropriate stakeholders so that they can, mitigate those risks, fill in those gaps. One of the things that we worked out at Just Protect was that just prior meaning 2 months, prior to the attack actually happening, Colonial had posted a job for an information security manager. Well, we actually tracked that back and we said someone somewhere about 9 months prior to that post going out had made an observation that there needed to be some oversight for information security at Colonial, and it took 9 months for that to go through the standard red tape and bureaucracy in corporates to present that role. Well, now if that role had been in place with the appropriately trained or skilled personnel, then that attack may not have happened. I can't guarantee it, but it may not have. But what we've realized is that assessments take place. Assessments are predominantly driven by compliance. So they're not really thinking about operational risk. They're thinking about compliance risk. What will the regulators say? How much will I get fined? What gets missed in this whole process is someone doing an assessment in a timely and frequent manner so that the risks are not only identified, they're communicated appropriately to the business stakeholders, and that the appropriate resources can be provided to mitigate those risks. So nothing has changed. The method hasn't changed. We really appreciate Colonial's transparency and willingness to support the industry. But really, there's a gap between us professionals and the business stakeholders. That is, assessments need to take place quicker and more frequently so that risks can be addressed, not in a financial year cycle, but as the risks get identified. And that's the real challenge that we're trying to bridge.
And it's clear that the risk is high, and it's interesting that you're pointing out the importance of individual roles like the one you highlighted. I wonder what the everyday person can do to keep their systems safe or the companies they run safe.
I like to say that my mother is my most difficult client, and if I can keep her safe, then really every business can follow the same approach. It comes down to a few fundamentals. Make sure that you've got strong passwords. Make sure that you have multi-factor authentication enabled. Make sure that when those security updates, whether it's on your iPhone or your Android device or your Mac or your PC, when those security updates come out, please make sure that you update them and then have a good backup. The only reason that these ransomware providers are actually getting away with it is because someone in the business says our backup solution or our contingency plans aren't appropriate for us to mitigate those ransomware attacks.
That's an important point, and I know we've seen a number of industries attacked by hackers internationally with various levels of disruption. And it's not just pipelines, right? It's been hospitals. We've seen police departments hit, being asked for ransom money. Is this a new problem, or are hackers just becoming more skilled?
Actually, it's not a new problem, and the hackers are becoming less skilled. And that's because there are opportunists who are now realizing that municipalities, police departments, healthcare systems have some very old technology that can be taken advantage of. So the prevalence of these attacks is actually calling out or identifying opportunists who think, oh, if I just exploit, a particular piece of legacy software, I may be able to get some money from it, right? Particularly if those individuals or groups are offshore and may not be on US soil. But as you pointed out at the beginning of the segment, organizations like CISA or the FBI are working very hard internationally and nationally to lock in and really close in on those criminal groups. So even those that thought that the ransomware people could get away with it, they should know that the authorities and the agencies are doing everything that they can to bring that money closer to home, so those losses aren't as big as they have been up until date.
And as you're breaking down the nuances in all of this, I'm reminded of something the DOJ Deputy Attorney General said, Lisa Monaco, this week, that, quote, the digital threats we face are more diverse, more sophisticated, and more dangerous. So knowing that these are happening, and they'll likely continue to happen, what can we do as a country to protect ourselves?
I think that the administration, through the executive order and some of the mandates that they've put out, are really tightening the thumb screws on those businesses that thought that this was either a problem just for the larger organizations or just driven by compliance and therefore had fines associated with them. Because really that's what businesses have been doing up to date. They've been addressing the compliance mandate. They've been addressing those things that would get them into financial trouble. But they're really starting to see that cybersecurity is not a small or big business problem. It's an every business problem. In addition to that, the mandate shouldn't be compliance. It should be operationalization. Hence the need for those risk assessments to take place. If we don't understand what keeps our business going, we're never going to be able to address the risk and then mitigate those cybersecurity challenges.
And I want to shift gears a bit. I appreciate that you're saying this is a broad-reaching issue. And this week, I know major websites like the New York Times, CNN saw outages. And the company behind it said that it happened because of a glitch set off by one user changing settings. But how can this happen?
It comes down to single point of failure. If we rely on the same evacuation route during a hurricane or a tornado, that's going to get jammed and it's going to cause us problems. It comes back down to how important is that single point of failure to your business operating. Certainly, there are controls that Fastly, the company that the aforementioned company, could have taken to prevent a single user taking down an entire plethora of websites. Agreed. But I think the onus is really on us, the end user, whether we are an individual user using Gmail or Outlook for our email services, or we're large companies like Spotify or Amazon or Netflix using these other companies. If there is a single point of failure, let's identify them and let's mitigate those risks.
And all of this begs the question, is the cyber tech industry growing too fast without enough safeguards, or is this entire industry just open to attack?
I think no matter how fast or slow the industry goes, there will always be cat and mouse. The cat and mouse has just changed from bank robbers robbing banks to ransomware providers that are breaking into computers. I think the threat doesn't change, the landscape doesn't change. What does change is the methods that we use to understand what it is we're trying to protect, and also on the flip side, the businesses understanding that using out-of-date technology, using legacy technology is no longer an acceptable way to run their business.
Well, thank you so much for all of your insights and all of your work and for joining us.
Thank you so much, Zinhle. Very nice to speak to you.
This has been Know This Live. I'm Zinhle Essamuah.